Hey, hello. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's feeling well. I hope everybody's doing great. Here we are again at Guitar Chat, and this is the number 52. We've done this 52 times, and we're happy you're at the other side of the screen, for sure. And Guitar Chat, as you might know already, is brought to you by Vegatrem, the best tremolo systems in the world. I hope you are already part of the Vegatrem family because, being part of this family has its perks. First of all, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do it now. Give us a like as well. Leave a comment here as well, because if you do so just by doing those 2-3 things, you're going to be eligible to enter into our t-shirt giveaways. You want to win one of these? It's pretty easy. You just have to be subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit like on our videos, and leave a comment on any of our live streams. That's all. That's the only thing you have to do. And I'm going to say the name of the winner of last Guitar Chat, the winner of this amazing t-shirt. The name is Eric Casper. Congratulations, Eric. We're going to get in touch with you and send you this t-shirt to your home. So there's that. Besides that, we also have our discount code that we're gonna put here underneath the screen on any time of the show. So if I were you, I would be alert, because with that code you can go to our website and get a 15% discount. It's gonna be good for the next 48 hours. And with that discount code, you can go to our website and buy as many VT1s as you want. You can use it for only for 1, for 5, for 10. You can only use it once, but you can buy as many units as you want, which is very, very cool. So now it's time to talk about our Vegatrem challenge. If you've seen the last 2-3 Guitar Chats, you already know that we are doing a monthly challenge. And that means that we're proposing a lick, a phrase, something that you have to play. You learn it, you record yourself playing it, and you're gonna be eligible to win a VT1 completely free if you win the contest, of course. So we're gonna see the participants that we have so far. Okay, so those are the participants that we have so far. Remember, you still have 2 weeks to enter into our Vegatrem challenge. You still have two weeks till the end of this month of November. Okay, next month we're gonna have a new challenge, but you still have these 2 weeks. So yeah, make sure you participate. You can win a VT1. And after this, without further ado, let's talk about today's interview. This is one of the most special interviews we've ever done. And I'm so happy because this man, this guitar player, this artist has been a favorite of mine, one of my longtime heroes. I grew up listening to this guy, so I couldn't be happier. Let's watch this interview. This week on Guitar Chat, we have an absolute legend. Without a doubt, one of the most influential guitar players of the last 30 years. Greg Howe has become a master among masters. Through his already long career, has been a huge source of inspiration for the global guitar community. Today, he shares his wisdom and experience with us. Welcome to Guitar Chat with Mr. Greg Howe. We are with Mr. Greg Howe. I'm very thrilled about this because, he's part of the Vegatrem family already, and we couldn't be happier having such a legend, such an accomplished guitar player. And I grew up listening to you, and this is like a dream come true for me. Getting to talk to you and have just a little chat with you. So thank you very much, Greg, for being here.
My pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you were telling me before that you've been very busy lately working. Can you tell me a little bit about the projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So I've got my own album, of course, that I've sort of put on the shelf for a while because I had a lot of things come up in these last couple of years that were pretty challenging. So kind of put that aside. But now I broke it back out again. So I'm finishing up some material for the new album. So I'm really hoping to have that done. I'm hoping to have it done by early next year. But I've got a whole album that I just did with any of you guys who have seen the Darwin stuff.
That's right. Yes. That's like a more prog rock, right?
Rock thing. It's sort of a whole sort of theme that goes with it. And it's fun. Vocals, and lots of guitar, especially on this one. Lots of guitar. Like he's got me on every track, I think. And I think the material's elevated. It seems really cool this time. It seems better. Not that it wasn't good before, but it just seems like he's getting better at it. And of course, Simon Phillips on drums, and he's producing it. And it's and I think we've got Mohini Day. For those of you who don't know, she's the amazing that bassist from India, who's and she's part of the DV Mark group, where she's like a Mark bass person. So there's that connection there too. But she's incredible, and I think she's doing bass on every track. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So that was a big project and a lot of video that went with it. So that's a big one. I also have a book deal a book on my technique, and this has been going on for a while. And it all comes with backing tracks. It comes with examples audio
transcriptions and things like that as well.
And it's a whole book, that literally laid out my perception of how I tend to see the guitar and so forth and so on. And that really should have been out a while ago, but I was kind of sidetracked.
Yes.
That should be out. I'd like to have that done before the end of the year. And I have an online sort of guitar music academy thing that is going to be launched. We're going to be shooting tons of footage for that during December. So I'm not sure the exact format that's going to be presented, but that will be out by next year and up and running, and it will just give people access to lots of lesson content, lots of music stuff, and my little weird way of thinking about music and guitar playing. So
nice.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're on fire. You're doing a lot of things, and that's great. I mean, I'm so happy. I'm so happy we're gonna get to enjoy more of your stuff real soon, and it's great. Well, it's we kind of started from the end, so I wanna ask you a little bit about your beginnings, because for instance, listening to one of your early records one of the that I really like, for instance, Introspection, there's a song, it's called Desiderata, which is, it sounds kind of classical guitar. So I wanted to ask you, did you study classical when you were younger?
No, I didn't. I had so when I was really young. For those of you who, there's a band called Yes. It was a real popular prog rock band.
Yeah.
And the guitar player shared the same last name as me. His name was Steve Howe, and he had a song on the Fragile album, an unaccompanied sort of nylon string guitar piece called, oh, what was it called? Mood for a Day, I think.
Okay.
And he is a lot like me in the sense that I can tell he's not really classically studied, but his ear knows what to do, and I think he kind of had the same technique that I use, which is I hold the pick with this hand, with these two fingers. I'm not really doing finger picking like real classical guys, but I'll do things like
Got it.
So Desiderata was a song that was inspired by that technique. Really, it's really a fake. It's a poor man's way of like classical guitar playing.
And I mean, it sounds like Bach. It's
right.
very it's very accomplished. I mean, I was completely convinced. I was like, this guy must have been studying classical, when he was a kid or something.
Because you're hearing the chords. Because at one point, sorry, there's like minor, and I also have this thing that I do, this fake hammer on from nowhere thing where I go.
That's right.
So I have all these like little tricks, and then try to use the ear to just sort of mimic the harmony that you generally associate with Bach-esque things. So that song was inspired by Jason, also by the fact that Jason Becker had just been diagnosed back then with the ALS.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, a great friend of mine, and he taught me so much when I worked with him. When I did my first album out in California and at Prairie Sun Studios, Cacophony was recording their album. So that was Marty Friedman and Jason Becker were recording at the exact same time. And I was so scared because I heard some of the stuff in the car. I remember Mike Varney was playing some of their stuff, and I was like, who is this? What is this? I've never heard anything like that. And he's like, oh, that's Jason Becker and Marty. They're going to be there while you're recording. I'm like, no. But they turned out to be like the nicest guys in the world, the coolest guys. We all became really good friends.
Nice.
And I learned a lot, especially with Jason, because Jason lived nearby. So he would, they got done with their album kind of first, and then I was recording my stuff. And he would just call up and say, hey, man, you mind if I stop in the studio today, check it out, and maybe you and I can jam afterwards. And so we kind of became friends, and he showed me a lot of stuff on the guitar. So it was really sad when I found out that he was diagnosed. And so I just felt I wanted to write a song for him and dedicate a song dedicated to him. And it just felt appropriate to sort of have it in a classical place, because that's,
because that was his sound, right? His signature sound for all the guitar players. Maybe, I mean, that generation of guitar players that came out in the maybe late 80s, early 90s, like yourself, right?
Right.
But I didn't know you were friends with him, and that I mean, that's awesome. So I mean, must have been amazing, right? To grow up into that scene of super skilled guitar players, and you being one of them, and having your own sound and everything. How is that? I mean, did you guys like I mean, you just told me you became friends with them, but did you guys like jam a lot together and share a lot of things together?
I did with Jason, because we literally became friends. And I mean, honestly, he would come to the studio and then we'd, get some lunch and, talk, and then we'd hang out. I remember one time in particular, we were jamming at the studio and it got so late. And I was staying at a hotel that was about a mile, 2 miles, from the recording place. Okay. Jason didn't want to drive like 2 hours back to where he lived, or an hour and a half. So he said, do you have 2 beds in your hotel room? If so, is it cool if I crash there? And I said, yeah, of course. or I probably offered. I don't know. I don't think he was that bold to say that,
Yeah.
but we end up at the hotel, and it's like 12 o'clock at night now, and I'm burnt out from guitar. I just want to watch TV and lay on the bed. I
Yeah.
turn on TV. I'm watching TV. He's over on the other bed, and I hear him. He's still like playing around on the guitar. He's still noodling around, doing all this stuff. At one point, he starts playing this famous classical guitar piece, and I can never remember the name of it. Ingve used to do it all the time. It was
Yeah. Well, I'm Buri. Buri. Is that one? Buri.
yes, that's
Okay.
exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's playing it, and it's literally flawless, right? I mean, flawless. Like it sounds like he's played it 800,000 times.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, and I'm not thinking much of it because I know I already know he's great, right?
Yeah.
But what blows my mind is I glance over at him just to watch him for a second, and he's playing the whole thing with this hand on top. I'm like, dude, you belong in a circus. So
Man.
Jason was nuts. He was just, and it's just such a super humble, nice, really
man.
kid. And he was so young. I mean, he was like, I don't even think he was 20 then when we were hanging out.
Wow. And he was already a super genius of guitar, of course.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's it's pretty unfair when you think about it. I mean, his condition and everything, but it also, the whole thing of him, still making music and everything throughout the whole illness and everything says a lot about him, and it's very, very, very impressive.
There's a lot about his love and zest for life, and a lot about his power of being inspiring, and a lot about how much he was truly a lover of music and not just shredding on the guitar, right? I mean,
yes, that's very important. That's right. Yeah. Because there's there's a big difference between being just a shredder, just someone who wants to shred, and being a musician, right? Even if your language is the guitar and shred guitar, of course.
Yeah,
but you're making music through that. That's your language, that's your style, but you're making music, and it's very, very important. That's something that I can see in your thing as well, because this is something that I wanted to ask you, because, for instance, when you came out, among all these shredders from the early 90s and everything, right? Of course, everyone was very into rock or metal, but you had something else, something different, because you could also play over changes and some more like jazz kind of phrasing. So I guess my question is that, were you aware from the beginning that you had something different going on, or not?
Well, it's a really, really good question you're asking. So it's kind of a long answer. So I'll give you the long answer.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
So you have to go back to early 80s, when I really got into guitar, and I was a huge Van Halen fan. And then there was all these guys that were sort of in that realm that would come out and sort of in the Van Halen style,
Yes.
And you had George Lynch, you had, Randy Rhoads, you had, all these guys from LA, Warren DeMartini, and all these guys that were pretty much in like 80s metal bands.
Yeah.
And then Ingve came along, and he kind of took the technique part of it to the up a little bit with this ridiculous picking speed and accuracy and the whole Bach influenced arrangements. And I was listening to everything because I was like, I wanted to be able to play like that. I was trying to, practice those things. But at the same time, I was secretly listening to John Scofield. I'm listening to Pat Metheny. I'm listening to Lyle Mays, right? I'm listening to even, some Charlie Parker stuff.
Nice.
Then I got into, of course, Holdworth, which was just, and still is, like another planet kind of thing. But I was really intrigued by some of these guys that were coming more from the jazz world, because I'm not very, I'm not scholastic. I didn't go to school for any music whatsoever.
Got it. Okay.
So everything I've learned just from either reading or asking questions or figuring things out. And I was just always blown away by the ability that these more jazz influenced guitar players had at being able to sound, I hate to use the word sophisticated but I don't know of a better term. I don't know how to explain it. Like somehow their note selection was much more intriguing and more colorful and more, just more interesting to me.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I would
Yes.
always sit there and I would say, I remember thinking of this when I was young. I thinking, how come all the rock guys who are playing stuff that's relatively easy to understand,
Yeah.
they all have this crazy technique, and all the guys that are playing stuff that's really cool, it seems like they don't have that fifth gear. You know, they don't have that.
Yeah.
What's wrong with taking both of those things and putting them? You know, that's what I always thought. And it was a very natural thing. When I got signed to Shrapnel Records in '88, Mike Varney wasn't ready for that, right? Some of the demos I sent him were kind of like that a little bit.
Okay.
And Mike said, I like your playing a lot, but Greg, this is a heavy metal label. I mean, I've got Racer X, right? I've got Yngwie with the Steeler. I've got Benny Moore. I've got, Tony McAlpine. And I'm working on, Cacophony. So this is all in your face, heavy metal guitar playing, double bass,
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. I mean, I know how to do rock tunes. I listened to Van Halen my whole life. I'm not really into it. And Mike and I'm not really into the neoclassical thing. I like to listen to it. I think it's impressive to hear all these guys that can do this insane gymnastics on the fretboard, but I'm not drawn to that music that much. I'm much more drawn to blues and like jazzy stuff. So we had a conversation, and I remember this. I sent him a couple of songs. I sent him as my very first demos. After he said, "I want to sign you," he said, "Now I need some songs." I had never written instrumental songs before that. So what I sent him was just me blowing over some chord changes.
Yeah.
So now I had to write songs. And so the first few songs I wrote were kind of in that whole like, that thing.
Yeah.
But even as I sent them, I remember thinking, but he already has this. He has this with all these guys. They all are doing that. Like, what do you really need another guy to do it? Wouldn't it be cool if it was more bluesy? And he at the same time thought, yeah, I agree with you, Greg. Take maybe borrow some of those technique type things, the speed things, and some of the crazy over the top, guitar techniques, but let's apply it to more of a blues thing. And so the first album I did really kind of sounds like that. It's more of a, it's more, it's not even fusion. To me, it's more of just kind of rock and roll, blues rock.
Yeah.
But by the time my second, so the structure of the contract was that I had a rock band at the time with my brother, vocal band. And I got signed to Shrapnel, and Mike wanted me to do 4 albums. I didn't want to just walk away from my band and just say, "Hey guys, sorry, I'm out." So I said to Mike, can we work something out where I can record 2 of the albums with my band and then 2 of the albums as instrumentals? So we worked that out, and that's why the second album I did, which was called High Gear, came out in '89, and that was with my brother and my rock band. And then we did another album in '91, I think. And then my 4th final album was Introspection from the original contract. And that album, by the time I did that album, Mike had already formed his blues label, subsidiary label.
Okay.
He was doing some fusion, things with combining different, well-known guys. He had already expanded beyond just the heavy metal one dimension, right? He was doing other things. And at the same time, he was also, he has a brother named Mark Varney who had put out these albums that were very fusiony. He had an album called The Truth in Shredding with Holdsworth and Franco Bali, which is amazing.
Wow.
For that, it's amazing. He put out another album called Centrifugal Funk, which was a really influential album of mine because it's when I first discovered a guy by the name of Brett Garsett.
Garsett, yeah.
Yeah, great player. And he was a big influence on me because I bought this record because I had the record sent to me because Sean Lane was on it.
Oh, okay. Wow, the great Sean Lane, man. He was.
Sean Lane and Frank Mbali. So I didn't even know who Brett Garsted was. I didn't even care. I'm like, I don't care who that guy is. I just want to hear Sean and Frank together. This is going to be insane.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, when I listened to it, I was really drawn in by Brett Garsted, and I had never heard of him. I'm like, who is this guy? This guy is really, I don't want to say he's stealing the show, but he is really,
at that level, right? Maybe.
On that level, he has no problem hanging with these guys.
Yeah.
And I liked his approach because it was kind of like what I had been talking about for a long time, which was that it's a little bit jazzy. He's not, I mean, he's a rock player, but he's got some of that phrasing influence that's coming more from a different kind of place.
Yeah.
And he's got all the chops, right? So I was just like, this is kind of like what I've been talking about, So it really helped me to, at the time that I did my final album for the original contract, Introspection.
For Shrapnel, yeah.
Shrapnel, Mike also didn't want to do the album in California. He said, why don't we, I'm trying to cut these budgets down. And so now they have this thing called the ADAT machine. How about I work a deal with you where part of your advance for the budget is I'll buy you a couple of ADAT machines and mixing console, and you can record the album at home. And I thought, okay, that's fine with me. So it gave me a little bit more license also to try things that I thought maybe he wouldn't approve of if he had been there.
Yeah, that's right.
So
you took advantage of that, right? Of being home and being completely alone.
Yeah. So I took advantage of that, and I recorded the Introspection album, and I was very inspired for that album. Very inspired because I was just in that place where I could feel the shift. I knew that just doing another rock album with an arpeggio that's got maybe one extra note up here, like there's nothing you can do after like Paul Gilbert to really impress anyone. Unique,
That's right. Yeah.
If I was going to be impressive, it was going to have to be expanding in a different direction, not getting faster or something like that. And so I was excited about the fact that this was going to be the first time that I really got a chance to express what I had been sort of holding in, for a long time. Because I wasn't able to do it with my rock band. I wasn't able to do it with my first album. I wasn't able to do it, but I had all these ideas, and I was listening to so much of that stuff.
Yeah.
Introspection was a really inspired record when it came out, and I was a little nervous when I sent the whole product to Mike because I was thinking, what if he thinks this is too light? It's not heavy enough. What if he doesn't like it?
Yeah.
But he did like it, and so that's how that all came about.
Well, I mean, what's not to like? Because, for instance, in my opinion, you're like you have all this vocabulary, like this sophisticated phrasing and lines, but also what you said earlier, the fifth gear, and it's like it gets you right here, and it's so amazing. But yeah, man, it's very, very inspiring. Every time I hear some of your stuff, I just want to play the guitar. Some other times I just want to quit. It's normal. It's like the two feelings that we all guitar players have when we hear people like yourself. But
I go through it every day. All you got to do is watch YouTube for about 2 minutes, and you can.
That's right. Yeah. No, but I also wanted to ask you, because you told me you have no formal education whatsoever. So I guess you must have the biggest ears in the business, because being able to play over all those changes, so flawlessly. Did you improvise a lot when you were growing up? I guess my question is,
yes.
Did you approach your study as a lot of improvisation?
I would say 90%. I was never really a technical player, and I still consider myself very technical. I was never the guy that sat around doing,
exercises and things like that.
Ever. It was always, I want to play the guitar. It's like a video game. It's like I can't wait to get to the next. I just pick it up, and if I was in the mood to, if I'd just been listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan, suddenly I'm going, or if I had just been listening to, something Van Halen and I'm playing a different way, I would just be excited to get the guitar in my hands and just do things, make music. and sometimes, of course, if you're working on a lick, you have to practice it a bunch of times. And
yeah, I have to practice on a specific run you want to play or something like that, right?
Exactly, right. That would happen, but I didn't have like a practice regimen where it'd be like, okay, so 9 to 9:30 we do this, and it was never that, right? It was always just, let's have as much fun as possible with this instrument. Let's just have fun. And so a lot of what I would do was just be turning on the radio back then.
Okay.
And then just whatever song came on, I just jam over it, whatever it was. Just Whitney Houston, didn't matter,
Wow.
Doobie Brothers, doesn't matter. Elton John, that's it. I don't care. Like,
wow.
Yeah, just jam out over stuff and just get familiar with things. And I inadvertently stumbled across harmony concepts. Modes was, one of the big things that I pride myself on today is that I know how to teach modes, and I feel like I'm better at that than most teachers because I was a victim of the confusion.
Okay.
And once I understood it, I was like, well, then why didn't they show me this? Why did they show me this other thing that was, the biggest mistake that people I find make with modes is that they show you the related scales. They show you the related scales along with the mode. And so your ear, if you have a good ear, like if someone says to me, and this has happened to me, right? I had a rival guitar player friend in high school, right? He was more of a jazz guy.
Okay.
And he'd always bust my balls and say, look, you should learn some music theory, because I was always playing Van Halen stuff and playing, rock and roll, blues, all that stuff. And he was more jazzy things. And I remember one day I said, okay, what is this mode thing you keep telling me? He's like, well, this is the Ionian mode. This is the Dorian mode. This is the Phrygian. And I remember thinking to myself, let me get this straight. You're playing a scale, but then you're playing the same scale again, starting on the next, and you're giving it some elaborate Greek name. That's the mode. Stupidest thing I've ever heard of. I really thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
And so I just walked away from all that stuff for a long time and just kind of used my own internal ear and my sort of music instincts. But when you start to get into more advanced music, you realize that at some point you do actually have to know a couple of things. There's certain things you have to understand. And so I inadvertently discovered modes because I'd be listening to a song on the radio that would be, say, A minor. And the song might be like...
Yeah.
So I'd be like, okay, so here's my main pentatonic. If I want to fill in the gaps now, it's going to be this note. So I'd be, so I can go up here. Oh, I see. Okay, that's what A minor looks like. Cool.
Yeah.
Next time A minor comes along, I know what to do. So then another song would come on 10 minutes later, and it would be like, something more like I go, okay, yeah. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Why isn't that working?
That's a sixth.
Right? I didn't understand that, right? Because in my mind, that's not work still. So why is that? What's happening here? So that was my discovery that was the baby steps into understanding, like, A minor is a broad term. Minor is a broad term. There's different kinds of minor. There's different kinds of major. There's different kinds of dominant sevenths. And that was the beginning of my understanding of modes. And so what I tell people now is the first thing you want to do is understand the sound of these things.
That's right.
I always say to people, there are 7 different ways in a conventional major bass scale to get from, say, G to G. We can go this route. We can go another way to get from G to G is this route.
That's right.
It's a different path to the same place. Another route would be, and so forth. And so each one of these routes has its own tonal quality.
That's right.
And that's what modes are. So swim in that for a week or two, and then we'll start to talk about the fact that there's a little bit of magic that goes on here, which is that what sounds like a major scale in one key can actually sound like the Phrygian scale mode of another key.
In a different one. Yes, that's right.
Yes, but learn the sounds first.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. No, I wanted to, I just wanted to say also that, for instance, when you use as far as I can understand, when I hear you're playing, you have a very, very big mastering of the melodic minor scale as well, which is a little more advanced.
I'm good at creating a perception. I'm an actor. I'm really good at making you believe that.
Okay. Well, I really believe it, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. So,
well, that's, when it comes to fusion, what we call fusion, which is still sort of one of those terms that it's kind of hard to define. I was surprised when I first saw my name show up like next to Scott Henderson in an interview in some article. Yeah. After I think introspection, and suddenly they're like, Greg Howe has ventured into the fusion world. And I remember thinking, really? Because I didn't really think of myself as a fusion player. I thought of myself as a rock player that was doing stuff that wasn't heavy metal. That's what I thought. Like, it's rock. It's just not heavy, or as heavy. It's not double bass and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I never really saw it as fusion. But I was listening to a lot of fusion, and certainly I would say that an album like Extraction, will probably qualify as a bona fide fusion record. But I guess the point I'm really making is terminologies are tough, right? What is fusion anyway? It's really just.
It could be anyway. That's right. Because, for instance, here in Spain, we have flamenco. Whenever we mix flamenco music with something else, it's already fusion.
Exactly.
And it has nothing to do with maybe what you do. It's a completely different, a different kind of music, but it's also called fusion. But
even rock and roll, when it first was birthed in the early 50s, really was the energy of like a lot of the big band stuff, but with the rawness and simplicity of blues.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So it was kind of like fusion itself. Everything was kind of fused from something.
Yeah. Well, it's just a matter of putting names out there. But I also, when I hear your music, I also, aside for the fusion and everything, there's a very, very big rock element to it, of course, because your guitar tone is already rocker, there's nothing, no one would say otherwise, I think. Right. But also you have kind of I don't know if I should call it like a prog rock or but there's elements of funk as well, funk music, because you have a lot of syncopated notes and things like that, and things that you have to actually learn. How is for instance, when you go out touring with your own staff, are you a very tough boss with the musicians? Do you want them to learn the material very, very well?
Yes, they said if you miss that note again tomorrow night, you're sitting on the back of the bus. No, I'm not like that at all. Because usually I'm the guy making all the mistakes. That's why
okay.
I hire really good players so that I always come across sounding as good as possible. But no, I like. I think it's like most people. First of all, there's a lot to consider. If I go out as a trio, then the arrangements of the songs sometimes have to be considered because we got to somehow fill this all in, right? I've got a lot of rhythm guitars and keyboards on some of my songs, and so if this is going to sound big and sound full, then maybe you should change that bass line from what was on the album to this other thing, which is going to imply the chord changes better and so forth and so on. So I try to come up with arrangements that are going to work better for live as best I can.
Okay.
I like to give the players solo spots. I remember Stu Ham telling me, he said, "Man, Greg, I'm getting more solos on this tour than I did on my own tour." But I want that, right? I want to mix it in. I want to keep the show interesting. I'm a guitar player, And to be honest with you, when I used to go to the Baked Potato when I was living in LA to watch, one of my favorite guitar players like Holdsworth or Gambale or even me, by song 6, song 5, I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go outside,
Yeah.
at some point you're kind of like, there's only so much you can take. And that's another reason why I don't like to have opening bands that sound too much like what I'm doing. I want to have something that's totally different so that the people aren't burnt out with guitar.
Got it.
By the time I get on stage. But I'm off on a tangent. So your original question was what?
No, it's all right. It's good because it's always interesting. But I was asking you about you being like a tough boss, and I guess my question was in the way of, for instance, do you try to keep the songs very, very similar to what you recorded in the albums?
No, I actually don't. I really don't. As a matter of fact, I encourage the players to bring their own energy to it, bring things to it. I'm hardly ever, unless it's a song like Jumpstart. I'm probably not even playing the same solos. You know what I mean? I want as much improvisation as possible. I want it to feel, because the thing is, I think the part of me that's a little bit strange is I know that with a lot of guitar players, accuracy and making sure that this performance is clean and everything is really important to them. And it's important to me as well.
Yeah.
But as I have gotten older and I start to be able to more accurately assess my own likes and dislikes, I realize that what attracts me to other musicians is the fire in their playing, the fire.
That's right.
The energy. Yes. And I'll take that with clams and mistakes over a perfect performance of something that feels kind of dead,
Sorry, so did you say clams?
Yeah. Sorry.
Can you explain that to me, please?
Clams are just mistakes. That's what we call them.
Got it. It's awesome because in Spanish we say gambas, which is pretty similar. It's a gamba means shrimp. So it's pretty similar. Man, that's awesome. I also wanted to ask you because, of course, I mean, when I hear your records, I see this amazing, like, super fluent solos. This super long phrasing that I mean, I just can't wrap my hair around how you do that. But I guess my question is, do you write those things, or is all improvised even in the studio? It's
improvised. Now, the difference, however, is that first of all, one of the things I feel one of my strengths are, and I have way more weaknesses than strengths. So, but I do have it's fun for me to just keep a 16th note line going all day. Just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's fun to do. Obviously, that's a one-dimensional approach to a guitar solo, and it only is going to work with songs that have a certain kind of rhythmic context. But the reason that I bring that up is because when I did my first album with Mike Varney, I kind of learned what is now my method of recording guitar solos. And I'm not even saying it's the best one to do. But when I got with Mike Varney, you have to try to understand, I was writing, I was sending him like 5 songs a week, right?
Oh, okay.
Very prolific at the time. I was living at home with my mom, so I had all the free time to do everything.
Yes.
I was very inspired. I was excited that I got a record deal, and Mike was liking everything I sent. So Mike would get on the phone with me, and he'd say, "Hey, I just got your new demo. Man, I'm loving this part right here. So, hey, Greg, so I got my friend Mitchell so-and-so on the phone with me. I'm just going to play him some of the stuff." So he'd always be playing my stuff for all these other people.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, all the time. And he did that with a lot of guys, I think, back then. But then I'd hear the solo section, and he'd be making all these remarks. "Oh, my God, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Oh, my God, that's crazy." Oh, and then the guy would be like, "Wow, this guy sounds amazing. Wow, Greg, congratulations." So when I got out to, and then I was nervous, right? Because I said to Mike Varney, I said, "So when you're recording with like Paul Gilbert and Tony McAlpine and Vinnie Moore and Yngwie, do these guys do they ever make mistakes? Like, do they ever screw up? And Mike, of course, joking around, he's like, no, never. That's not. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not on that level at all. And then he's like, no, of course they do, but he said, but these are great players, so they come prepared, and if they don't, we can always record something, and if we like what's there, then we punch in after that, and if not, then we start over. So I said to myself, well, I'm gonna learn every solo that's on every one of the songs that I've sent you. I'm gonna know every solo note for note.
Yeah.
So that I can just be that guy that hardly ever makes mistakes. So this is crazy, right? I get out there, and the way that Mike Varney would put these albums together, it was always like a assembly line situation. It's like drums and bass, rhythm first.
Okay.
Then rhythm guitar. We're going to spend the whole day doing rhythm guitar, just getting tones. Then the next day, we're going to do all the melodies for your songs, all the melody lines. And then the final stage is going to be the solos, right?
Yeah.
So it comes time for the final stage section, and it's crazy. Back then, remember, this is 1988, right?
Yes.
So there's no such thing as even ADAT shit. There's no digital recording. It's just
it was all tape, right?
Tape machine, right? Going to the 1/4-inch tape for the 2-mix.
Yeah.
And Mike Varney's sitting right in front of me, facing me. Like, I got a guitar, he's right in front of me, and he's going to control the record button. That's how it was, right? So I'm already super intimidated, right? Because it's like, when you're looking at Mike Varney, you're in a way, you're looking at, it's like sitting in front of Yngwie and Tony and Vinny and Paul, because that he's seen everything, right? So I'm like, oh my God, it was just intimidating. So I'm like, all right, here we go. So I start recording my first solo, and I get about 5 bars into it, and he hit stop. And I said, what's the problem? What's wrong? He said, I'm not really liking what you're playing. I said, okay, well, that's what's on the demo that you were playing. That's what's on my demo. Yeah. I know. I was never really crazy about that. I was never crazy about your solo. I'm like, now you think you told me that now? I'm going, yeah. Just, you know what, Greg? Just try something else. Just jump in there, see what happens. And I'm like, Mike, I've been working on this solo for the past month. Oh my! So it was the scariest thing, and I was really pissed off because I was in a way I was thinking, if I don't have the time to get something together that's nice, then these solos are going to suck. They're going to suck. But really, what ended up happening is that he would say, okay, here we go. You ready? Go. Boom. And then I'd just start playing, right? And just whatever happened.
Yeah.
And I'd go as far as until I finally crashed and burned, and he'd usually say, I really like all that. That was great. Let's punch you in here. And then, so these solos really got put together by capturing these moments of total spontaneity. That's really what it came down to. And I remember I was thinking, this record is going to suck. Everyone's going to hate my friend. I'm not even on the same level as these guys. I just remember thinking, I suck, and when the album came out finally, when it was all said and done, and I had a chance to zoom out and see it and hear it, I was like, okay, I get it now. Now I see what he was doing. This is better than my demos. This is way better than my demos, because there's all this fire in it that was coming from the moment, right? The thing I loved about Van Halen was he always sounded like it was the feeling I would get would be like you get into a brand new sports car and you just floor it, and you're on a back road that has all these. So you're almost crashing every 2 seconds, but you save yourself. And that's right. That's what his playing always sounded like to me. Like he's like, oh, how's he gonna get out? Oh, nice save. That was
that's right.
And that's the tension. That's the fire, right? Because when I hear a solo that's totally worked out, I'm not saying it's bad to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. But it usually lacks that energy. It doesn't have that. I'm not on the edge of my seat anymore. I'm just kind of like, okay, it's nice. He's going to be it's going to be
Yes.
just fine. Right?
Totally. I mean, I couldn't agree more, because that's exactly what happens. I mean, sometimes you catch yourself playing something that you've studied over and over and over again, and it has no soul. It has no, no, it's not inspired. But
Right.
then other times, even with mistakes, with
Yeah,
clamps, as you said before,
totally.
it has something else, something that
Right.
that moves you right on the inside.
That's
But
exactly right.
I think your approach to guitar is, it's rocker in terms of sound and attitude, but it's jazz in terms of the concept, because improvising, it's a jazz thing,
Yeah,
whereas rock
that's
and
true.
roll, normally rock bands, they write their solos, in their
It's true.
in their songs, in their records. But if you just want to improvise, I think that's more like a jazzy approach. And that mix, between your rocker sound and your attitude and everything, with the other improvisational skills that you have, that what makes it so unique. You're playing. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think that really does help to it. And I think that the other thing that I try to emphasize, especially in clinics and in seminars, and guys who are looking to become artists, like we were talking about, really, make artistic statements. Don't see every limitation that you have as something bad, because sometimes the limitations are exactly what you needed to find a workaround that gave you now you have a style. Right now you have something that other people aren't doing, because if you're good at everything, then you end up sounding just like a guy that's really good at all these things you've already heard. But
Yes.
To have a sound that's easily and immediately recognizable, which is something that I do know I have, but
That's right.
a lot of that is not. A lot of that is not the result of being great. It's the result of not being great. It's the result, like, okay, I can't get my vibrato to do that, so maybe I'll, maybe I'll just have a different way to do things.
That's right.
I can't do a run like Holdsworth, so maybe I'll get my own version of, how to do that stuff.
Yeah. That's
So
pretty cool. Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry. I just cut you.
So I think sometimes embrace your weaknesses, because sometimes it's a secret door into some new, maybe not groundbreaking innovation, but some slightly different way of approaching something that gives you a very recognizable, immediate sort of signature quality to your approach.
That's right. I think that's the best skill. I mean, not only a guitar player, but a musician can have. Right? Just being recognizable from the first 4 bars that you played. That's the best thing you can do. That's the best thing you can achieve. And you have that ever since you were super, super young. So that's why we're talking about.
Yeah, right. And it's very, and it makes me feel blessed when I hear people say, I love what you do, because to me it's like, it's an honor and a blessing to even be able to do this. To make a living doing this is already a dream come true, and to have people actually enjoy it and enjoy my version of it, which is the result of sometimes weaknesses, and is really just feels almost feels unfairly blessed. I guess that's the word.
Yes. Totally. Yeah, that's right. Well, let's talk guitars as well, because the guitar you are holding right now. Tell me a little bit. I mean, I already know, but for our audience, tell me a little bit about it.
So this is the brand new signature model that I designed with Jeff Kiesel at Kiesel Guitars. So my whole life, when I say my whole life, my whole career life, which started really in the late 80s, early 90s, with when it comes to guitar, started with Fender, right? So Fender was the first deal I had. Fender had come out with a guitar called the HM Strat back then, and I was really the only guy they had pushing that guitar. I was the only guy. They had me in all these magazines. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And it was a cool guitar. It was cool. It was about, I think, in my opinion, it was about 4 years too late, because all those like 80s guitars with Ibanez and what was the other big Kramer?
Kramer, that's right. Yeah.
they were all had already been doing that for a long time. And Fender finally goes, we should have a modern guitar. So
a super Strat, right? Like something like that, no?
Right. It was a super Strat, and it was their heavy metal Strat, HM. So a lot of people thought HM stood for Howe model, because I was the only guy that was in the ads for that guitar, the only guy they had. So
yeah,
and that was cool. So I didn't really have anything to do with that guitar. There was no signature. I didn't have a signature guitar until I got with ESP. And even that was a situation where they already had models that I was essentially just accessorizing, right? That Custom Horizon was kind of like a sort of mild contoured top with a nice maple top finish, and they already had that. I forget what I added to it. Whatever I brought to it was not major. It wasn't like Steve Vai's gem guitar. It was a brand new thing.
Yeah.
And really, even with Kiesel, actually I take that back. I did have a guitar that I did design from the ground up with I always forget this guy, Keith Brawley, who was heading the whole Laguna thing with Guitar Center. Laguna was owned by Guitar Center. Long story. He was the guy that sort of was in charge of that whole project. That when they brought me in, we did do the LE 924, and that was cool. But let's be honest, it was a Stratocaster. You know what I mean? It was a offset double cutaway with a different headstock, and pretty much this equivalent to like everything I had been doing up to that point.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something that was genuinely different and new. I wanted to have a signature model, because also one of the problems I was getting with Kiesel was that I'd get a lot of DMs and emails and private messages from people saying, I tried to order your guitar online, but it said it was $1,400, but by the time I added the stuff that you have, it seems like it's, I don't know, $2,700, and I don't know. I don't even know if I'm using the right, hardware. Or do you use this? And blah, blah. Like, there's all this confusion, right? And then and then a lot of people would just say, well, I was able to put a guitar together with their online builder that looks a lot like yours, but it was way cheaper. So you know what I mean? So
yes,
I want to just have clarity. I want to have something where when you see this guitar, that's Greg Howe. That's a Greg Howe model. So yeah, I came up basically, and I had a guy put it together for me, but I had it's not an outrageously new shape, but it's we shortened this one.
But you designed that shape, right?
Designed the shape, yes.
Okay.
And there are some things about it that are considerably different than a Stratocaster. And I presented it to Jeff, and Jeff was very on board. He liked the whole concept. Right away, he's like, yeah, like. So then I went out there to San Diego with him, and we just started playing around some more and more. And I discovered that one of the things I wanted to stop having was the sort of contoured or the rounded thing. I don't have. Where's my? Trying to see it.
Okay.
Oh, here's one. So this is one of the very first ones we did, and I remember I was playing it in the factory, and I was asking people about it, and asking the others, like guys that work there, like, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, it's cool. They were like, it looks like a guitar, right? And it was okay, but I was like, something about it still is too Stratocaster. What? So then I came up with the idea of, let's get rid of the rounded edges. Let's put a flat front on there.
Yeah.
And that really helped a lot because it took it to this place. And then I started noticing that Jeff had, Kiesel has sort of innovated this whole bevel thing.
The bevel, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I was genuinely looking for a solution, because when I was playing the first few models, I really felt like my arm was like out here a little bit. Yeah. And I said, Jeff, can we do that bevel thing that you guys do here? And at first he was kind of, I don't know that there's enough wood to do this, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, he made it work. We put the bevel in, and it was, and then, so with that flat front and the bevel, it started to take on a shape. It started to take on a nature that was looking fresh to me.
Okay. Yes.
And something that felt like, okay, this is cool. Yeah, and that's really what we did. Then it was about the tops that I like. I had one of my previous guitars from Kiesel had this poplar wood as the top.
Okay.
And I had taken that guitar on tour with me, and I didn't use it at all until the guitar that I was using started having some fret issues. So I was just using what they call their Bolt Classic, which is literally a Stratocaster with a different headstock. I mean, tobacco bird, just no top on it, just the wood.
With humbucker in the bridge, though?
With a humbucker in the bridge, yeah.
Okay. That has been always your configuration, right? Two single coils and a humbucker in the bridge.
Yeah, and even though I still to this day I'm thinking about trying to track down a pickup manufacturer or pickup builder. I still have a vision of a squeezed together humbucker, a single size humbucker that really sounds good. The problem I have with them is that there's something that gets lost. There's a bigness, a fluffiness that's not there when I find those things. But sometimes I like that quality. So I just want to play around with some pickups still. I'm not committed to Seymour Duncan at all. I do not have a exclusive deal with them. So I don't care if I'm talking about it in public. Because I've tried to work with Seymour a lot. I tried to work with them on designing a single version of the pickup that we are using, which is the whole lot of humbucker.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. But then nobody ever follows up. Nobody ever comes through it. There's a lot of weird stuff at that company, at least my experience.
Your experience. Right. That's right.
So,
okay.
But anyway, when I broke out the other guitar, because of the fret problems I was having with the original Bolt Classic, I really liked it. It popped. It was like, whoa, these notes really boing. They really came out. There's a big mid-range push. There's this big like 1.5K thing. It sounded like somebody boosted the EQ at around 2K, 1.5 or there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this is nice. This is cool. This is yelling at you. This is screaming. and so I think the poplar wood was a big part of that. Because
that's why you decided to do your signature Lyra with it, right?
Exactly why, right? Not to mention it also looks beautiful, right? It's a beautiful wood.
It really does. Let me ask you something about the finish, because it looks like it has no varnish.
That's exactly right. It's a matte finish, right? And I like that. I personally.
But do you like that because of the looks, also because of the sound?
Mostly because of the sound.
Oh, okay.
It feels like it breathes. It feels like the notes have a little more of a woody context. They're a little bit more natural sounding.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that it's better, because trust me, I have many guitars that have a lot of finish, and some of them sound great. But I also do like the look. I actually prefer the look of something that looks. I've never been a huge fan of the big glossy. It looks like a race car or something. I don't know. There's just something. I don't hate it. It's just that I like the sort of toned down.
Yeah.
Less shiny.
Can you also tell me about the neck radius? Is it very flat, or how is it?
I've screwed around with every single radius there is. It's a 14, so it's standard. It's pretty standard.
14. Okay. I mean, for your way of playing, I mean, you play a lot of legato lines and things like that. So maybe that's the best, right? For your.
I think right. The problem I have with Stratocasters, especially like older ones where you like a 9-inch radius, or 10, is that even though there is something I like about that, it feels good in the hand. I can't really get the action where I like it to be for the fifth gear stuff, right?
Yeah.
I struggle with that a little bit more, and the thing is, if you flatten those necks, and there was a guy that was doing a mod to old Fender necks in Pennsylvania, where he'd flatten the front of the neck.
Yeah.
So so the neck felt really small because you already have less of it this way.
Yes.
And that was cool. Kind of, but there is such a thing as actually too flat. My first signature model was a 20-inch radius.
Okay.
Kiesel, because I just thought, why not? That's as flat as you can get. You can get the action down, and you can. But there is something that, I don't know. There's something that feels a little strange about it. So I think the fact of the matter is that most modern guitars, especially in the quote unquote shred realm, have been in the 12 and 14 place.
Got it.
So my fingers are just used to that,
They're used to that, of course. Yeah. Wow. And then Vegatrem came along as well, right? With for your Lyra. It was like the last, I don't know if we were the last ones to join.
Right. So let me continue with the chronology of this. So we come down to this. One last thing that I just want to say before Vegatrem chapter is that Jeff and I were really excited when we were looking at this thing, and we didn't have an actual guitar. We were sort of putting it up on the computer, his builder thing, like making little. Yeah. Let's try this. Let's see what a pop will talk. I remember this color. I don't know if they call it. They call it red something.
Tortoise. I think it's it's something like that, right? It's called something.
So it was going to be a white pickguard because it just seemed obvious against this dark thing.
That's right. Yeah.
But the white pickguard, and it doesn't look bad, but the guitar looks a little bit more typical or generic, sort of.
Yeah. It would have looked a little more less edgy, I would say.
Edgy, right? That's exactly right. So we both, once we tried this, I remember he put it on in the builder. He was just like, "Let's try this." And I'm like, "Whoa, damn, that looks good." So, and then we were excited because it was basically like, let's go, let's do this. And then you guys came along and ruined everything.
That's right.
So I remember after you guys had emailed me to remind me that you had sent me this bridge probably a year or two earlier or something.
Yeah, it was me all the time.
So I was like, okay, let me install this thing, see what it is. And I was really impressed with what it was. I just thought, wow, what a great, simple idea. How could no one, how has this not ever been done before? It was weird, so obvious,
Yeah.
It's kind of like doing that.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, this is cool. I actually liked the sound of the bridge because, realistically, I've already come up with solutions for being able to go both directions on the bar because I know how to install a bridge and have it be installed on a slight nosedive so that I can pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's still a much more cumbersome. It's not as smooth a ride as what you guys did.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So then so I was just really getting excited about the sound. I liked the sound. I could hear a certain quality in the tone that wasn't there with the Fender bridge. Mm-hmm. That was what impressed me because I didn't need. Kiesel doesn't have an issue with bridges that can't pull back and do.
Yes, I understand.
So
it was the tone, right? Mostly the
tone for me and the feel. It's because it's so smooth and it feels so sturdy and so locked in, right? It doesn't feel like it's. A lot of bridges are real wobbly and they're just I don't know. They just feel not real stable. But this one, I just loved the feel of it, and I was really wanting to at least try it on the new guitar. I also thought Vegatrem is bringing a slightly new, fresh thing to the whole industry. It's a new thing. It's the next phase for bridges, especially for Strat guys. I mean, I can't believe that every Stratocaster player in the world doesn't want to play this. I would think that like a Scott Henderson would be all over that thing because he uses the bar a lot now, like a a
Oh
lot.
yeah, I know. He's all over the place with the, I mean, with the bar. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we need to have a conversation with him for sure.
I really think he'd be blown away. I think he'd just be blown away by how smooth it is. I'm not saying that John Sir doesn't know how to make, I don't know what.
No, I mean, of course, they know very well, and they make amazing instrument as
Yeah,
Kissel do. There's a lot of amazing manufacturers out there. Uh, it's just a matter of time. We're still babies, in the
right.
industry. So it's just a matter of times, I guess. Well, for everyone who's watching us, you can go to kissel.com and order that exact same guitar, Greg Howe specs. Kissel Lyra. That's a beautiful, amazing guitar. It has other finishes as well, Greg.
Oh yeah. So here's the way it works. When you go to the Lyra section, you can do pretty much anything, right? You can do no top. You can do different hardware. You can do a different pickup configuration. You can do a rosewood fretboard. You can do even maybe different headstocks. I'm not positive. Any color. You will get the version that you'll get when it comes to pickups. If you wanted this pickup configuration, you're going to get the one that they use for the most part. You see the difference, which is that where am I? Here am I. See how the middle pickup's closer to the humbucker.
I see now. Yeah.
And on mine, it's further away because the original guitars they sent me, which was the Bolt Classic, was this.
Okay.
And I use this position, the position that splits this. And I use that a lot. That's this position right here. Right. So I use that position all the time. It's like a weird kind of almost country, but not quite kind of sound. I don't even know what it is. I just like it.
Let me ask you something. Did you use that pickup configuration for the rhythm guitars on the Marigold album?
A lot of it, yes. Yes.
Because that's a killer tone. That's killer. I love it. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
man. Love that. Yeah. That's amazing.
Cool. And so when it comes to the normal Lyra, you can do just about anything. Now, that was the other thing that I was so happy that Jeff did. I said to Jeff, can we just have a button that says Greg Specs so that people don't have to try to figure out things and make phone calls and all this, read articles. They could just go, that's what Greg does. And he agreed to that. So on my spec version, the only options you get are the translucent paint color. So this is translucent orange.
Okay.
You can do, I think, green, purple, blue. I think there's a few translucent colors, and they all look amazing. On that poplar wood, they look amazing.
That's right.
And I think, and pickguard, and I think that's it. Pickguard and the translucent paint. You cannot change the neck. You can't change the pickups. Can't change the configuration. Can't change the hardware even. So it's going to be that. It's going to pretty much be this exactly.
Well, so everyone who's watching us, you guys can go to kissel.com and order your Kissel Lyra Greg Howe specs. Because I mean, of course, in your hands, every guitar it's gonna sound amazing. But I'm pretty sure it's a great instrument.
It's a really fun instrument, and it's really fun to. I can't wait till people start hearing some of the Darwin stuff, because there really is a lot of. A lot of bar. There's a lot of singing going on, right? So
awesome. Yeah. Any chance you're coming to Europe anytime soon?
It's interesting. I just talked to my booking agent this morning about setting up tours for 2023. So in a perfect world, if everything was normal, which it's not, I'd be psyched about doing a European tour, which would probably take place around October, September, late up to September, October, 23, and that may happen. I really wish that all the craziness in this world would just kind of calm down a little bit, because I get a little bit hesitant about being over there. I'm really not. I don't want to. I don't know. I don't want to talk about politics or anything, but I just,
Okay.
I don't feel like walking around with masks on everywhere. I don't feel like being worried about some region of East Europe not being available because the war has expanded or something. So I'm just hoping that things are cool by that time next year.
Okay.
But I do know that I'm certainly going to plan an American tour for August, and in a perfect world, I would be coming to Europe after that. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, let's cross fingers too here, because whenever you come to Spain, you have to know you're invited to the Vegatrem headquarters. We can take you to eat some paella as well, or whatever you want.
Great.
Yeah, it would be.
I had a blast in Spain last time. And it was my first time in 2018. Was it 18 or 19? I did my tour.
Oh wow! It was your first time ever in Spain?
Spain, yeah.
Wow.
First time here too,
were you in Madrid? Where you were?
All the major cities, yeah. Madrid, Barcelona. Where else? I'm trying to remember where else.
Valencia, maybe, Bilbao, Madrid.
Actually, it may have just been Madrid and Barcelona. I have to go back, but there was just I just loved the vibe, loved the food, loved the energy, loved the people, and it was cool.
Awesome. Well, next time you come, we're gonna take you places for sure.
Nice.
It would be awesome. Well, thank you very much, Greg Howe. It's been a pleasure. I mean, you're our it's amazing that you are part of the Vegatrem family.
That's great.
Someone and I just have to tell you, the fun moment here when I started driving, I would listen to Extraction like nonstop, over and over and over again. It's an amazing record. So thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for your playing, and thank you for all these words of wisdom that you shared with us today. It's a pleasure, and thank you very much.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it here. So this has been Guitar Chat. So till next week, you guys be happy, be safe, and play a lot your guitar. Bye, Greg.
Take care, guys.